Our next question, Jim, was sent in the CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Charles. Jim, do you have any particular memories of the Warlord? I remember when he first debuted with Baby Doll, it appeared he was heading towards a showdown with Big Bubba. Then all of a sudden he got knocked out with a roll of quarters and disappeared for a while. Was he just too green to be in that spot at the time? I forgot about that. Wow.
Well, yeah, and I remember the Warlord, actually, because I just saw him about a month ago at one of the fan fests, I think, in Fort Wayne. But and he's still a giant. Yeah, Terry was at that point that he came in 81. I think he was 21. He was either 21 or 22. And he had just started because he was another guy from Minneapolis that followed in the footsteps of the other Eddie Sharkey guys. And so he's 21 or 22, and they gave him to Baby Doll as a bodyguard because I had Big Bubba, right? And I'm working the program. This is a Great American Bash 86 season, and I'm been working a program with Baby Doll, and I've got Big Bubba Rogers. So there's Bubba, who was only 23 or 4 at the time, and only been in business like 3 months. And on the opposite side, there was the Warlord, who's 22 years old and has just gotten to business in front of people. And I think they thought at that point, after they saw the first match or two, I'm sure everybody would agree this is probably not a thing we want to try to do long term. And I don't remember whether he left for a while. I know they wanted to bring him back as a heel, Warlord, which they did, obviously, 6 months later or whenever it was.
They sent him to Kansas City, didn't they?
Yes, that's right. And Bubba went to Kansas City for a while too. That's right when they had bought Kansas City. And they said it's not fair to this guy. He needs some experience. The pressure in Kansas City was less because the talent level was less, but they were still running regular shows where you could work in front of people. So they sent him out to Kansas City. But I'll tell you, one night it was me and Baby Doll in Greenville in the big singles confrontation, which was a lot of gaga and very little confrontation, right? But I roll out of the ring, and the Warlord is in her corner and Bubba's in mine. I think we were setting something up probably between them, but I roll out of the ring, and the spot is going to be I roll out right in front of the Warlord, and he picks me up and rolls me back in the ring. Well, when I roll out, I'm on my knees right in front of him and starting to put my foot under me so I can stand up, and he just gets me under the arms. And I was 220 at that point. He gets me under my arms and just straight arm pick me up over his head. It without even me pushing off. And I looked at him like, just set me down. Yeah, because he had to set me down to roll me back in. I didn't want him to throw me in over the top rope. But he was just massively strong, just massively. But it was short-lived there, that initial run with Baby Doll.
What did you think in the NWA? I mean, not, the NWA locker room, but just you being there, when all of a sudden they showed up in the summer of 88 in the WWF as their version of the Road Warriors with Baron Von Raschke as their babyface manager.
That's right. I remember that now. I forgot about the Baron. I remember, well, that's the thing. They had got on the outs with the Office over something right about the time they did that bench press thing in Greensboro with the Road Warriors, right?
Yeah. Well, was it scaffold matches?
It was. That's right. But that was what set it up because it was leading to the bashes, to the scaffold matches. They booked those two fuckers. That's right. Thank you. Barbarian is, he probably could have done it of anybody because, he was just so fucking massive and just cat-like and powerful at that point. But Barbarian was 285 pounds to 300 pounds if he was an ounce, and the Warlord was over 325 pounds. And they booked them in scaffold matches with the Road Warriors. Who's taking that bump? As soon as we heard about it, we all fucking laughed. And I remember me and Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane looking at each other like, what the fuck? Because obviously if a scaffold match comes up, everybody's going to fucking look at us about it. And I believe that precipitated or necessitated the departure of the Powers of Pain from the Office, from the promotion. And they debuted on that. Was just, I don't know what the fuck.
Hey, I got to ask you this, though. You obviously had the Mid-South scaffold matches at the end of 84. You had the Starrcade one, famously, at the end of 86. Did Stan realize when he joined the team that this was going to be a recurring thing? That he inherited the scaffold?
The scaffold matches were not mentioned when in March of 1987 or April of 1987 when he had the initial meeting with us and Dusty. The scaffold, I think he thought he was safe because we just had it at Starrcade 86. He thought, just like I did when I went to work for TNA, I said, they've already fired Shitstain, right? So I'm safe. No, I don't think Stan knew that was part of the fucking arrangement. And then they start coming up in the 88 bashes. And what the fuck? I know in Starrcade 87 too.